Today I'm going to be making barbecue bean wraps. I'm going to be making it with rainbow chard, a half a sweet onion, some bell pepper, and some pinto beans. But first, let's go ahead and get started with the sauce. Now, it took me a while to find some barbecue sauce at my local grocery store that doesn't have any oil in it. So this is 1 cup of barbecue sauce, 1 teaspoon of balsamic vinegar, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. Now this is optional, but I like a little bit of sweetness in there. Okay, we'll give this a bit of a stir. Okay, and now I got 3 cans of pinto beans. I've drained and rinsed them already. Go ahead and put those in there. And we'll give this a nice gentle stir. Get this barbecue sauce all mixed around the beans. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now let's go ahead and get started on chopping up some of these vegetables. I'm only going to use half of an onion on this recipe. I'll just go ahead and save the other half for another meal. So I like to dice these up pretty small. So I'll go ahead and use the other half of bell pepper for another meal. But let's get this onion chopped up. Then we'll go ahead and put this in with the beans. So we'll go ahead and mix this in. Now we'll go ahead and cover this and put it on low. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and cut the chard into wrap pieces. Okay, so now you can see that I have them in like little wrap-sized pieces. Okay, so the beans are done. I had to cook them on low with a lid, but I had to keep an eye on them and keep stirring them every so often so they didn't scorch up. Okay, so let's go ahead and make one. Let's grab a little bit of the bean mix. Wow, this is gonna be good. And you just kind of wrap it like a taco and just go ahead and enjoy it. That's so good. It's so good for you. Your family's gonna love this. You know, when I was a kid growing up, I used to love mac and cheese. It was just such a nice comfort food. But unfortunately, it's just not that good for us. So I came up with a recipe that requires some carrots, some gold potatoes, some nutritional yeast, some lemon juice. But the first thing I usually do is to get the water boiling for both the noodles and the vegetables. So we'll go ahead and get started on that first. Okay, so the waters are boiling. Let's go ahead and put the vegetables into the boiling water. Then we'll go ahead and put our noodles in. So this has been about 20 minutes. And these are looking real good. You want to make sure that the carrots are cooked all the way through so they can blend real easy. So I'll go ahead and put this in my food processor. There you go. Okay, so that's about the consistency I like. Over mashed potato-y kind of consistency. So that's looking real good. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. I usually go with about a half a cup of unsweetened almond milk, a half a cup of nutritional yeast, about a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of dry mustard, and then I have about a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And then I always like to, the lemon. I like the lemon in there. Go ahead, I think I used 2 lemons, so. Yeah, this is looking really good. So yeah, that's the consistency that I like. Just, it's kind of creamy. It's really nice and creamy. Look at that, that's great. I don't want it too thin, because you want to have it so it's more like a cheese. I'm gonna go ahead and pulse this just a little bit more. Okay, so the noodles are all done. Let's go ahead and get them out and drain them. See, that's why I like the sauce just a little bit thicker, because as you can see, there's gonna be a little bit of moisture on these noodles. Go ahead and put these noodles in a bowl. Now that was a pound of noodles. As you can see, I still got a little bit left over, but unfortunately my dish, wherever it is, over here, is not that big. So I'm gonna be just kind of going with this. So it's almost a pound of noodles. This is the extreme health version of mac and cheese. It doesn't require any cashews, and of course you understand that cashews are very high in fat. Now, if you want to make this version taste a little bit more like traditional mac and cheese, then go ahead and add some more nutritional yeast and more salt. Now, I've preheated my oven at 400 degrees, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven once I get done. But let's go ahead and stir this up real nice. This is looking really good. Now, you can go ahead and eat it just like this, or you can go ahead and put it in the oven like I'm about to do. I'm going to put it at 400 degrees for about, 15 minutes. We'll see how it looks. I just want to get that little brownness to happen on the top of it. Go ahead and smooth this out a little bit. Okay, this has been in the oven for about 20 minutes at 400 degrees. And like I said, if you like your mac and cheese a little bit more buttery, go ahead and add more nutritional yeast. But let's go ahead and check this out. This is going to be good. So good. Italian food is a favorite at my house, but sometimes it can be a little daunting trying to figure out what the pasta at the grocery store is made of. Is it made with oil? Does it have eggs in it? And what kind of flour is it they're using? But don't forget, gnocchi is a great alternative to an Italian dish and even some salads. And it's relatively easy to make, and a lot of times you can make it with the stuff that you have in your pantry, provided you have a couple potatoes. Now today I'm going to be making my gnocchi with whole wheat flour. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want a little bit of that fiber in the meal. The only thing is with whole wheat, it does give it a little bit more of a chewy texture, and that might not be so cool with your family, but you can go ahead and use whatever flour you want. The first thing I usually like to do is to get this water boiling so I can get my potatoes cooking. Water's boiling. Let's go ahead and put these potatoes in. Now this should take about 15 minutes, give or take a few, but it all depends on if it's tender or not, and I usually like to just test it with a fork just to see if it's just right. Okay, so while my potatoes are boiling, I'm gonna go ahead and get my sauce started. This is a basil marinara sauce that I made a couple weeks ago. I put it in some of these glass jars, and I actually put it in the freezer as long as I have some space in the glass for it to expand. The thing I like about the glass jar, if it's frozen and I'm in a bind and I've got no time, I can always set this in some boiling water just to get that defrost process going before I go ahead and start warming it up for sauce. But you can always get these plastic commercial containers that they sell like on Amazon or something like that. And the thing that's nice about them is the lid is really secure. And as you can see, they have that perforated edge and they work really nice. But the only problem is once this is frozen, I don't think I would stick this in boiling water to defrost them, because I'm not really sure what kind of chemicals come off of plastic, so I don't even go there. So the choice is yours. So let's go ahead and get the sauce warmed up a bit. Put my lid on and put this on low. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes. Let's check to see how these potatoes are doing. Okay, let's check this out. So as you can see, it's still a little bit hard. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in for just a little bit longer. Okay, so the potatoes are done now. Let's go ahead and get them out of there. Now, what I usually like to use is a potato ricer. And what it does is, if you use a masher, it tends to make a different type of consistency. But as you can see, the ricer has a different, small holes. This other one has different dies. But, as you can see, this is the size that I like to do. So it's pretty simple to operate. All you do is put your potatoes down in there, and then go ahead and just rice them out. Okay, let's grab another potato. A couple more maybe. There you go. And here we go, some more. Okay, so now I've got my potatoes boiled and pushed through a potato ricer. So now it's time to go ahead and put some salt in there. And then the wheat flour, or whatever flour. Now here's the thing about gnocchi. It's basically 2 parts potato to 1 part flour, but it all depends on how wet everything is. But you want to turn it into that gnocchi dough. Okay, so now I've got my dough all ready to go. It's time to start making the gnocchi. Now, as you can see, it's got that consistency that's not exactly sticky, but it's just enough where I can mold it up into a roll and start cutting it up. So the first thing I usually like to do is to just divide it up into quarters. Then I'll go ahead and make a roll. Okay, so now I've rolled it out into like a tube, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it into 1-inch pieces. Okay, so to make your gnocchi a little bit more authentic, you can always put a little bit of design with the back of your fork. And the way you do that is you just kind of press with your fingers and roll it so it gives it that perforated design. Now, you can either go ahead and freeze these for another time, and the way you do that is I would put these on a cookie dish or something like that so they can be separated, put them in the freezer, and then when they're frozen, go ahead and put them in a reclosable bag. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna eat these. So now my water is boiling, so I'm gonna go ahead and scoop these up and start putting them in. Okay, they're all in there. And usually gnocchi, when it's cooked, it basically just comes to the top. Okay, so now I go ahead and add just a little bit of salt and let this cook up. Okay, all the gnocchi has risen to the top. It's time to go ahead and serve it. Like to get off all that moisture. We'll put some sauce on there. Maybe a little bit of basil. And as you can see, that looks amazing. This is gonna be good, tell. That's so good. So if you're looking for a relatively easy meal to make, gnocchi is not that difficult. It usually can be made with the stuff you have in your pantry, provided you got a couple potatoes. So good. I still have a lot of people still on the carb thing. Can you explain to us